Now, the rest of the story.
And welcome back. Well, what else do you do when you really can't be in the fields and doing anything? You hop on your wife's four-wheeler and you go out and check pastures. Well, the pastures have been checked. It's the cows that I was actually out here looking for, which they all took off on me. They're up that way. They're up there. So, the pastures actually are getting hit a little bit sooner than what we want them to be. We let the cows out at least, well, at minimum, at least a week earlier than what I would have really liked. The grass just really isn't growing. It's been cooler. Well, without the amount of sun that we could really use, I think that's a lot of it too, is just we need sunlight. Today was the first day in a little bit of a while that we actually had some decent sun, and it really got everything taken off. It's just that when we let the cows out by that time, the pastures really weren't as far along as we really would have liked them. And as a result, this pasture in particular has kind of gotten chewed down a little bit more than I liked. But the good news is I kind of do a form of grazing down here. The farm that I live on, it's pretty much one big continuous pasture. There's actually between the main road, which my driveway, if you guys have seen any of my videos where I'm working on my driveway, that pasture to the north is actually connected to this pasture. So I can let the cows literally almost go all the way, well, yeah, they can go almost all the way around our main fields. So they can actually go from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least, yeah, we got about 5 continuous pastures that are all fenced off. I can go through and open up all the gates and they can run all 5 pastures, or I can do what I'm currently doing, and I'm closing them off to each individual pasture, and I'm letting them graze them, and it's kind of letting the pastures bounce back when they get them grubbed down, because this one in particular, it got hit kind of hard and it never really had a chance to really take off. And the other 3 pastures, the one they were in over winter is one of them. That's still kind of trying to recuperate from having them on it over the winter. That was grubbed down a lot worse than this one. But we're going to go from this pasture, and once, I'm thinking another few days on this one. The sun is supposed to be, I think they call it summer at this point. But with the sun coming back out, one of these days here, we start getting some warmer days. It's not like we're not getting warm days. I mean, we're getting days where it's 60s, high 60s, low 70s. It kind of hits that. But consistently, and then you get the cloud cover and everything. The pastures are just taking their time growing this year. A lot of guys I'm seeing have their cattle out in the pastures. It's not just us, but it's just making do with what you have to work with. So we go from here. I have 2 more pastures readily available that I could let these guys into. I can go open the gate on them right now if I really wanted to. It's just trying to give those pastures as good of a head start as I can, because once I move them into the next pasture, I'll probably leave them in there for probably a good week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, and just constantly check them. I try to check these guys pretty regularly. They're not due to calve anytime soon. Mine are. I really should just go do a video on them really quick. They look kind of cruddy. They're losing their winter coats, so they look kind of rough, but they're doing great now that they're out on grass again. They're getting all the feed they can really ask for right now. And if I can stand up, kind of give you guys an idea about what we're currently dealing with right now. I mean, the sun is getting pretty low, but the ground is, it's getting there, but another 12-24 hours and we'd actually probably be running pretty hard here. But just trying not to get too excited about it. I think the cows are starting to get curious again, though. They're starting to make their way back. So I shut the four-wheeler off because I stopped to talk to Tyson, and the cows lost interest in me, so they all went up to the upper end of the pasture. And that's actually what they're doing. They are going up, that's where the gate is up there. Probably checking to see if I left the gate open. And now that they've done that, they're going to work their way all the way back to the other end of the pasture, and they just kind of work back and forth on it, working it down. They actually have the other end of the pasture grubbed down pretty low actually, but I don't know. We'll make do with what we got. We went into this spring. We actually had about 30 bales left, so we're actually not doing too bad on the hay side. And hopefully with our new seeding and everything, that will actually be loaded down a little bit heavier with hay going into this upcoming winter, because we are going to have a few more mouths to feed. We actually had those, February, March for Ryan's, and we did all right. But making all the grass patches and everything, all the waterways and everything else really adds up. You guys, if I can do it without blinding you, I definitely make it a habit. That's a pretty good sized waterway. I try to do every little field road and everything down at my place as I can. I can actually make probably off just one cutting, I can do about 20 to 30 bales depending on what time of the summer I can get them made. Like the stuff down at my place, I ted it. This stuff gets stupid tall. It's practically up to my chest. And then what I end up doing is I won't cut it because the stuff just gets that far gone, that far, so mature that I have to be fairly certain that I'm going to have plenty of plenty of sunlight, plenty of dry days. I need at least a week to really do it, because what I try to do is I'll go through, I'll windrow it. Yes, that's right, I windrow it. As long as we have that tedder here, I like to use the tedder. I'll go through, windrow it on the first day, let it try to dry out a little bit, get the ground dried out, and then go through with the tedder the following day, a good 24 hours after that. I'm not worried about losing any leaves or anything because this is grass, it's not alfalfa. I'm not worried about losing any of the feed quality. And then I go through the next day, I ted everything out, get it laid out all as well flat and even as I can, and then I'll let it sit until basically the last day or so, or maybe the second to last day before they're calling for rain again. I like to let it sit for 2 or 3 days, let it get good and dry, and then I'll go through and we'll get it raked up, we'll bale it up. I don't bale it as tall as I really could like our alfalfa. Grass does not like to compact. It's similar to corn fodder. Corn fodder, when you try to make that into a round bale, it doesn't like to compact, so you actually have to put at least one more wrap of net wrap on it to make a nice consistent bale that you can actually handle a couple times so it doesn't just explode on you. Because I've dropped them out of the baler before, the net wrap gives and the baler just goes kapoosh. So same thing with the grass. When I'm making grass bales, I usually set the baler for about 5 foot bales, 5 foot tall, 6 foot wide, as opposed to 5.5, sometimes 6 foot bales, 6 feet tall, and then they're 6 foot wide with the net wrap. I'm saying that right, or is it 5 feet wide? 6 by 5s, 5 by 5s. So yeah, so I try to make them 5 feet tall, 5 feet wide. If I'm saying that right. If I'm not, it's irrelevant at this point. What I do is I actually make them a little bit smaller and then hit them with 3 wraps of net wrap as opposed to the typical 2 for alfalfa. And then if you can get the grass dry, you can get it baled and get it put in without getting rained on, that makes some wickedly awesome feed. I actually prefer that a little bit more than alfalfa. The only problem I have with doing that with grass, and I've actually had some people ask me about that, why we raise alfalfa and not raise more grass, is because the grass that I'm making, I do actually cut all the waterways everywhere I can, and then we have that pasture that we make. We got about 15 acres of pasture grass we make, because if we don't make it, the cows just trample it anyway. So what happens is we cut that first growth off, and then we let the cows out in it after it's gotten cut, so that new growth comes up and the cows just go crazy for it. And when you're feeding that fresh grass, I'm bouncing on the four-wheeler if you can't tell, but when you're feeding that grassy stuff, the cows go through that stuff so quick. The alfalfa, they really don't care for it as much as the grassy stuff. I like feeding that to the smaller calves and everything to get them eating well, at least so they're eating a little bit more, especially in the middle of the winter. I mean, energy. That's a big thing. So I don't know if you guys can still see him yet or not. We got a little bit of everything. That's my dad. This is my dad's herd. So he's got some red Angus, some black Angus, some belted Bulingos, and he's got a couple red and whites. Oh yeah, the black and white and the red and white. Yeah, Bulingos. So yeah, we gotta start bumping the cows up around here. I mean, crops are okay. I like raising corn and beans. Don't get me wrong, but even for myself, 40 to 50 head of beef cows is it's another source of income to bring in that I'm really not tapping. So I'm kind of letting money flow through my fingers, if you know what I mean. The buildings at my place, I haven't really done a whole lot to them. I have to with our infrastructure and our handling facilities. Out at my brother's place and my place both, they need a minor to some pretty significant revamps. So getting some fences put in and checked and redone it would be huge. And then just having the facilities, like a place to put them in the winter so you can keep better track of them and handle them, sort them, stuff like that. So all right, if you guys can see them. And with that, I gotta head back home and see what Brittany's up to. So thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for the positive comments, I guess, as far as trying to get planting done. It will get done. I mean, I've never heard of anyone doing preventative planting, so ever in the history of my life. So I don't really think we're gonna be worried about that too much. I hear that a lot of guys are throwing that around down south. That are taking preventative plant that I've never had to before, never have before. I'd rather not. I'd rather raise a crop, of course. And like you said, I really don't want to raise crops or be putting crops in the ground June 1st. I mean, if we end up getting to that new seeding, putting oats and hay in the ground June 1st, it's not the end of the world. But when it comes to corn and soybeans, when you're running that late, I don't know. There's a lot of opinions out there. For us, there's a lot of people that were planting the middle of April around here. I don't know. I got some critics that think we're immature and we don't know what the hell we're doing. But if we don't know what we're doing for putting what little bit of crops we did in the other day, I can tell you right now, up to this point, up to this video that I filmed anyway, we haven't put anything in the ground yet since then. But there is a lot of ground that was planted prior to even then. It is how this area works. That's as far as getting crops in early, it happens. I know of one guy that has 3,500 acres of corn in the ground. It's just how things operate. It's how the world turns. It's not a regional thing. I know a lot of people are saying that that are 2 hours away from me are saying that it's still cold and icy and everything else for them. Down here, we haven't seen ice or anything else like that in a long time. So, all right, that is enough of that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Take care. Take it easy. Keep in touch. Talk to you guys tomorrow.